Wholesale Hotline, where we cover everything to do with wholesale real estate. I'm Jamil Damji.
I'm Brent Daniels.
And I am Pace Morby.
And together we cover the most important parts of wholesale real estate.
Lead generation.
Conversion of sellers into contracts.
And dispositions. Guys, remember when you're watching this show, do us a favor and squad up in the comments.
Make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the YouTube channels and in the Facebook group Wholesale Hotline.
Most important, we want to know we're doing a great job for you and helping you build your business. So go give us a review on iTunes and or Spotify.
So squad up and enjoy the show!
Welcome to Wholesale Hotline number 80. Are you kidding me? The Jerry Rice episode? The MVP, two-time MVP?
80 episodes, bro?
That is absolutely incredible. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. It has been just an unbelievable first 79 episodes, and we're just getting better each time. My name is Brent Daniels, Mr. TTP, Mr. Talk to People. I am here to talk about lead generation. The man next to me here is Pace Morby. He's here talking about converting these leads into signed opportunities. And the man below me here, but always above me in my heart, is Jamil Damji. And he is talking about getting rid of those properties and getting the most out of every single deal that you have. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined here by Mr. Scaling the Business himself. From Raleigh, North Carolina. Can you believe it? He is here. He's got a lot of enthusiasm. He is doing this from home, and we are so excited that he's joining us here, and that is Terry Thayer. Terry, say hello to everybody here on Wholesale Hotline number 80.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. It's an honor. Looking forward to it.
Well, we're excited here. We are going to get to everybody's question. Well, some people's questions, probably not everybody, but we're going to answer a bunch of questions. Yeah, Jamil and I were just talking. We were just talking about, we had a great time hanging out this weekend.
We celebrated
my birthday. It was great.
Can everybody just, for a quick minute in the chat, it was Brent Daniels' 30th birthday this weekend. And
30th, huh?
We had a fantastic time, but I think all of us should take just a moment out of our day to express how much we appreciate Brent Daniels. And I'm going to start. Brent Daniels, I appreciate you so much for changing my life, bro. Because of you, I decided to open my mouth and share my experience in this business. I love you very much. You absolutely changed the trajectory of thousands of people's lives because of that. And just want you to know how grateful I am to you. So guys, put it in the chat. Tell us why you're grateful for Mr. TTP and just give him all the birthday love because he's so deserving.
I'm gonna ring the bell for my own birthday.
Yes, Brent, ring the bell for your own birthday, bro. Yes. Kirsten DeVito says he's a life changer for sure. Amazing human, bro. I feel the same exact way. Thank you. Happy birthday to you. And Brent said he sent me a personal invite to his birthday party.
That's right.
A handwritten letter, and it went to my mailbox, which
mail.
Never gets checked.
Yeah. No, we were talking about it, Pace. I mean, I haven't opened my mail in 18 months. I haven't. I don't know who does it. I think it's my wife, but it just doesn't.
Somebody does it.
Jamil, do you open your mail?
No, sir.
Terry, do you open your mail?
No, I do not.
Isn't that wild? Like, I remember thinking all the time, I was so worried about bills. I was so worried about these things. And now it's like nothing. Everything's automatic payment and everything's like, done. It's wild. I'll tell you what, but thank you guys. Thank you for showing the love. 9/1 is my birthday, September 1st. It's actually this Wednesday. We celebrated this weekend. So if you have the opportunity, join me for the live show on Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're going to do something special for my 40th. So thank you guys. Let's get into it. Let's start rocking and rolling. Terry, will you tell everybody what you have been doing the last 5 years, how you've been growing, how you've been scaling, what you've been doing?
5 years, huh? Okay. So from Raleigh, North Carolina, well, I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I've been here for almost 27 years from upstate New York. And let's see, the last 5 years is really when massive growth started to happen. That's when I started really listening, seeing the potential, listening to coaches, hiring coaches, and taking things to the next level and stop being such a damn control freak. I think that's the biggest problem that a lot of us have, especially in this industry, is that we don't know how to let go. We don't want to let go. We could do it better ourselves. So we've really taken the businesses to another level. We build houses, we wholesale, we flip houses. I used to buy a bunch of rental properties. I'm in the process of exiting all the single family rental properties and getting more into multis and commercial. That's my next move. But yeah, it's gone from me being every part of the business, whether I had people or not. I knew everything that was going on, to I don't even have access to my Podio anymore. Like, they've taken it from me. I don't have access to, I don't know what's going on, except for I look at KPIs. I talk to my business partner, who's basically our COO, CFO, and just have these conversations on higher levels based on metrics and how we need to scale, when we need to scale, what we need to put more money into, what we need to back off of, when we need to hire, and just the simple things.
Awesome. Love it. I want to read from the pumpkin plan real quick, if you guys don't mind. We're just going to open this up. And this is to all three of you guys. I'm really interested to kind of get your thoughts on this, because it talks about, charting your business and really the people that you want and need in your business. And I think this is really interesting. Maybe you haven't created an organizational chart for your business yet, but I'm willing to bet that if you have, you've approached it in the same way most entrepreneurs do, working with what is instead of what should be. The right way to staff your giant pumpkin, this is the pumpkin plan right here. The right way to staff your business is to start with what you wish you had. What do you guys think about that?
I agree 100%. We do the same thing. So we already know the next 3 people we're going to hire in our business. We know exactly why. And let me tell you why I know that and how we made that shift is because Brent Daniel suggested to my business partner, Cody Barton, 1.5 years ago to read the pumpkin plan. And so we changed some of the stuff that we did. And I actually, last time I saw Cody post the book he was reading on his Instagram account, it was the pumpkin plan. And he said, this is my 3rd time reading it. So any of you guys out there that have not read that book, it's phenomenal. But yes, we made that shift about 1.5 years ago, is that we would haphazardly hire based on what we needed, like in that moment, like some bad thing that was going on, maybe a hole in our organization. We weren't thinking about where do we really want this business to be in 2 years, to the point where I no longer have to have a Podio login, which I haven't had a Podio login for 1.5 years. Fancy that. Timing is not a coincidence. It was literally, let's get these people out of the way. Let's be very intentional about the hiring and what this organization should look like. And was it executed perfectly? No. But that also means it was executed perfectly, because we at least took action and we bumped into things along the way and ultimately got to where we are today. So 100%, I believe in that. We've done it the opposite way, and it is not a good situation.
Well, and I see, Pace. I mean, it's like when we get started, we're like just trying to get our first deals going. We start building some momentum, and then all of a sudden we're doing some cool things. We're starting to get loud. We're telling everybody what we're doing. We're getting excited about it on social media. Then your friends start wanting to know what's going on, and your family starts wanting to go what's on. And then you're like, oh, well, my friend over here, he's been experienced. He's experienced in sales, and my other friend over here, she's amazing at accounting and all these other things. And then all of a sudden you start pulling them in, and then you're paying your friends and your family. You're not taking as much home as yourself. And I don't know if you're growing right. What do you guys think?
Well, I'll jump in real quick on that, because I have experience with, hiring based on nepotism versus based on merit. And I think that when you do hire your friends and your family, that's probably one of the biggest red flags I would ever say. Look, there's nothing wrong with being in business with family and friends. Like, my business partner is Josiah, Hunter, and my sister, right? But I've been working with my sister for decades. And so I know that I can trust her. I know that she works harder than I do. I know that she's a very competent individual, and so bringing her into anything I do is going to be a blessing, not a hindrance. But what I can also say is I've seen what it looks like when you hire a very good friend that is talented, that does have ambition, that does want to, have a financial future in wholesale real estate and whatnot. And then you bring that person into your fold. And when things don't go the way you want them to go, or when things start to diverge, because they will always diverge, especially when you're hiring entrepreneurially minded people, you'll find yourself in a very vulnerable situation where you're either going to lose a friend or you're going to make a good decision for your business. And don't put yourself in that spot. I hear it more often than not where I talk to folks that are part of our coaching program. They're like, yeah, I'm going to hire my cousin. I'm going to hire my buddy. I got a friend here. I got a friend there. And then one thing I'll always tell them is you got to stop hiring your people. The people that the people that you've been hanging around with are what got you here. They're not going to get you to the next station. Sorry, but that's not how it works.
Terry,
what are your thoughts?
What he just said, just like hit the nail on the head. I think I never even thought of it until Jamil, you're just bringing all that up. Like, I think that's the biggest difference between me staying stagnant because I was with the people that got me there, and then going to the next level and not hiring friends and family. And you know what? I ruined a lot of relationships by hiring friends and family. And I've gotten to the point now, like, I refuse, absolutely not. I even have kind of a hard time when one of my current employees will refer somebody that they know, because I just don't even want to mix that. But then, it has to be a really good situation to bring that in. But yeah, I mean, that's the biggest difference is when you start bringing next level people, new fresh blood into the organization. It makes a big difference. By the way, I have never read this book. For some reason, never heard of this book, but I just put it on my list. It's going to be one of my next books to read.
It's the same guy that did Profit First.
Oh, okay.
Mike McAllowitz.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting because my whole company is friends and family, but it wasn't off the bat. Like, I've been doing this since 2004, and I tried it early on, and it was a disaster. And that's because of me. That's because I wasn't in the right place. I didn't have the right systems in place. I didn't have the right success record. I didn't have the right plan and process and ability to emotionally go to them with candor and say, hey, we need to do this, this, and this, right? I didn't want to start this issues with friends and family. So I would just put more on myself. I'd get all pissed off in the quiet times in my mind, and it really eroded the business. It took me a long time. The reason I'm saying this, I don't think that it's right or wrong. I think you can figure that out, but you need to have your systems in place. You need to have your business in place. That's why Terry's on here today, is to talk about these systems so that you can provide an opportunity for friends and family if they fit into the box. What I'm talking about is making a role for your sister and brother and cousin that you don't need right now because you want to be around them. You want everybody to come up with you. I think it's one of those fatal flaws. And trust me, I went through it not once, but twice. And it bit me both times. And now I feel very comfortable because we have the systems and the management in place.
Okay. So I got a couple questions here.
Yep.
For everybody. Michael Williams has a good point. He says, help family in a way that encourages them to improve themselves. For example, if you read this book, I will help you with your business. Here's the question I have for you. Is there a box, or is there a time when you should hire family members, right? Or that you can say, you know what, you've checked these things off the checklist. I can hire you now. And follow-up question, what is the first hire? If I'm a brand new wholesaler, I'm brand new to this business, what is the first hire I should hire? Is there a magical answer to that? Jamil, what are your thoughts? Family member, is there a box you can check? A magical box, a magical recipe? And then Terry, you're next.
I think you have to be brutally honest with respect to what the value that family member could bring to your organization. And that's the hardest thing to do, because if you're brutally honest, even with yourself, you'll start to see that oh my gosh, you've got a long way to go. And oftentimes it's, you're not going to do that. You're not going to be that aware. You're not going to be that brutally honest to say, you know what? I love you, brother. However, you tend to be a victim. You tend to be hard to coach. Anytime it's you that's wrong, it's everyone else that's wrong. And I've watched you for the last, 40 years be a total shit to mom when she asks you to call her every holiday. So why is it that you feel like you have a problem with being told what to do? Everything else about you is amazing, and I think you do a great job in my business, but these are some flaws in your character that I think are going to be a hindrance to you doing a good job in my business. How are you going to have that conversation? How do you have that conversation?
That's a tough conversation to have. My personal feeling is I stay away from hiring family members directly. In fact, we have one of my family members, my sister Landry, who works for Bats Driven, right? The Driving for Dollars app. And when we hired her, my partners were all like, she's amazing. She's amazing. We want to hire her. And I go, under one condition. Her and I don't even treat each other like we're in the same company together. I have no relationship to her whatsoever. I don't ever want to taint the relationship with my family members at all. If she gets fired, I'm not the person that fires her. If she has somebody she wants to run to for help, I'm not the person she comes to. I have zero relationship with her inside the business. That's my personal feeling, right? However, on the other side, my wife is my realtor, and she also finds a lot of deals for us from JV partners, and I can trust her to do things, and I can be honest with her. And her and I can have those kind of brutal conversations because we're on a specific level together, right? So I don't know. Can you have that relationship and that conversation with your family members up front without souring that relationship? I don't know.
There's even places where you and your wife pace where you're like, look, I'm a co-star with you on a television show. I know this for certain. He tells the producers, my wife and I don't talk. If you want her somewhere and you want her to do something, you communicate that to her directly. Don't come and have that conversation with me. I'm not doing this in betweensy weensy kind of thing. Okay. You want to have Laura somewhere, you reach out to Laura and make sure she's available. Don't come and tell me and then get pissed off that she's not where you wanted her to be because I didn't have a conversation with her. I don't.
That
tell
is a
Laura
good point. This literally happened last week, where after 4 months of being on the show, every single day I've told them over and over and over, guys, pretend like my wife and I don't communicate. Don't ever mix me up in her job or my job, because you cross communicate. Oh my gosh, I forget one thing. I look like a bad person. She says, why didn't you tell me? So literally the other day we were doing interviews inside of my home, and we were all over there. And one of the producers says, hey, can you tell your wife upstairs to do X, Y, and Z? I go, she's got a cell phone. Call her. You go talk to her. I'm not talking to her. That's not my job. Do not cross-pollinate whatsoever. Don't expect me to go do that, have that conversation. So that's a good thing, is like clear lines and clear definitions. Terry, what's your thoughts on that?
No, what you said, my wife and I do the same thing. That's my only business partner that's family, by the way. Brent, you must have better friends and family to me, because I can't do it. I've tried it, and every single time, like, it's always good in the beginning, right? It's like a new relationship type of situation. And then at some point it goes bad. I think the reason why we do that is because when we're first starting to hire and grow our business, it's low hanging fruit. Like, we don't have a system to put together to hire and bring on good people. So we grab what's within arm's reach, right? And then it ends up being a bad situation. So if you have the system in place from the beginning to be able to hire the right people, bring on the right people, train the right people, keep the right people, then it's going to be a better situation. So I remember starting off 2 things: bring on family members, bring on friends, or not have the right system for hiring and literally hire the first person that applied. And then I was going through the hire, fire. And it's expensive to bring somebody on and train them and get them to it's typically 90 to 120 days before you really start getting a return on somebody. You're going through that beginning stage of training, and then they're getting comfortable, and then they start to produce at a higher level, right? So it's like, if you have to change somebody out every 90 to 120 days, you're never gaining ground. So having a good system for that is
well. Let's give the people some actionable items here, right? So let's give everybody in here. We've got well over 300 people watching live between a couple of YouTube channels and a Facebook group. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. One of our really, really dear friends, Tom Kroll, is watching. Everybody knows Tom Kroll.
Tommy.
I probably quote Tom Kroll every 3 to 5 days. Freaking love Tom Kroll. Yeah. So here's a question. I'm a budding wholesaler. I'm doing maybe 1 to 2 deals a month. I know the answer to the first question, which is when should I hire somebody? Brent Daniels has taught this 100 times. When I should hire my first employee is when my cup has ran over. I have no more capacity to do everything in my business, because we all start out having to do more activities. Like Terry, you today are making money in a business that you basically have zero involvement in. Not zero, but probably 5 to 7 hours a week max.
Right.
But that's not how it was when it started. So you have to start by wearing more hats than you are today, right?
Correct.
So you start there. Then when you have you have not enough capacity and you have too many opportunity, maybe too many leads to follow up with, maybe too many contracts under, during the transaction process. That's when you hire somebody, is when you don't have the time. That's when. But who is a question we should answer. Who is the first person we should hire? And is there a process, Terry, in which we should hire those people?
For sure. All right. So my answer to that question is I try to keep the highest income producing activities to myself. Mm-hmm. And make everything else I'll outsource everything else.
So in the beginning, would that be maybe going on appointments or actually closing sellers on the phone? What would be the highest income producing activity in a beginning wholesaler's business?
Closing. You want to close deals.
Closing. Okay, got it.
Income, acquisitions, dispositions, you keep that, right? The first person I always recommend to outsource and hire out is some type of admin. And really that person can be an admin, they can be your transaction coordinator, they could be doing everything for you on the dispo end, except for actually talking to the buyers and negotiating. Like they put up all the marketing, they get any kind of due diligence stuff, pictures, measures, whatever you need to get the information out there. And then it allows, get all that stuff, all that busy work done, drive traffic to me so I can talk to these buyers and close these deals at the highest amount.
Okay, so let's say that I don't have any VAs yet. Let's say it's just me. I'm cold calling, and I'm averaging 3 contracts a month. That's a lot of contracts with getting contracts, transaction coordinating, disposition, staying organized, doing my banking, running down and signing documents, all that kind of stuff. Should I hire maybe a virtual assistant to replace myself on the phones first, or should I still hire an admin person to take some things off my plate if I'm actually getting deals over cold calling?
Okay, so if you're cold calling, 100% get a VA, outsource that. That should be probably the first thing that you do, because you're going to get so many more deals by dealing with higher level leads. Let them sift through everything, get you to higher level leads, and then you work on that. But yes, definitely an admin person. And okay. I'm a big advocate of having that person in-house, not having that person be a VA. So a lot of people love that position as a VA. I think there's just way too many moving parts going on where you need that person beside you, especially when you're evolving, that you need to be working with that person closely. And that person needs to have good English. They need to be able to not negotiate, but I mean, you know how it is. You guys are a title state, I'm an attorney state, but just what you have to deal with on closings, on trying to get the right information over. Like you get somebody from the Philippines and they're just very robotic, right? Very straight line. They answer the questions, yes, no. And if something goes off a little bit, they don't know how to get creative. So I believe in having that person be an in-house person, but that in-house person that can start off as an admin, turn into a really transaction coordinator, turn into a dispositions manager or an acquisitions manager, and really grow with you and your company.
I like that, because I think a lot of people are in a 9-to-5. Guys, if you're still in your 9-to-5 and that's your primary activity you're doing on a daily basis, Terry just mentioned hire a VA right out of the gate, because Tanisha, who's one of my sub 2 students, She says, Pace told me to hire VA because I have a 9-to-5. So essentially somebody can generate your leads all day long while you're at your day job. Then when you come home, instead of you necessarily cold calling, this is my advice. Brent might have different advice. I come home and instead of me cold calling, I have appointments to talk to sellers who somebody has already warmed up for me. If I have a budget for a VA, that's probably the first route I would go. Brent, do you advise a different direction?
I think that everybody has 20 hours. I have not found a single person outside of some real serious military students around the country that don't have 20 hours that they can commit to their real estate.
You're talking about per week, right?
Per week.
Okay, got it. So
per week. That
you're saying 20 hours to cold call a week.
No. Just 20 hours. 10 to 15 of those should be hunting for opportunities. And this is especially, listen, I truly believe that you should go out there and earn your first checks. Earn it, make it part of you, get that confidence, get over, be really brave, get over your fear of the phone, get over your fear of being like you're in this box, right? And you have a job and you're stuck in this employee or maybe self-employed type of position. And until you start going out there and really working and really calling, really communicating, it's going to take longer for you to break out of that mental mindset, that mindset. Right? So what I like is get in there, spend 10 to 15 hours talking to strangers, being really brave, know that you're out there hunting for opportunities. That doesn't mean that you can't go and get a VA to call for you as well, but I think you got to do it as well. If you just go, hey, I'm going to turn this thing on, I'm going to have a VA call and only get to these leads when I can get to these leads, things are going to slip through the cracks. You're going to fall into old patterns. You're going to ignore some of the hottest leads because you're not going to really know or feel what their problem is, what is their distress, because you've never had that conversation with them. Now, 80% of the follow-up that you do is going to be a text message and voicemail because somebody's not going to pick up because it's a new number that's calling them. And you haven't talked to them yet, and you're leaving messages trying to catch up with them, and then you get discouraged, and then all of a sudden you're back to your normal 9-to-5 life. So I think that if you're out there and you're actively hunting and you're being proactive, 1, you're going to build confidence way faster. 2, you're going to build your communication skills way faster. And 3, you're going to get more deeper discounted deals.
Okay, got it. So phase 1, I'm brand new.
Yes.
Right? I go out, I start hunting. Right. Yep. Phase 2, I'm getting 2, 3, 4 contracts a month by hunting. Now we enter phase 2, which is what Terry was just talking about, which is, look, hire a VA, start offloading some of that stuff off your plate. Maybe you've done that a little bit earlier, right? Depending on your budget and your situation, but still in phase 1, you should know what it feels like to talk to the sellers and do the outreach and do the hunting and all that kind of stuff. So yep. I'm in phase 2 now. Yep. I hire admin. Okay, let's follow Terry's advice here. Terry, I hire admin. What are the top 4 or 5 things I'm going to have that admin do right out of the gate that every wholesale operation is going to have? Is it pulling lists? Is it uploading lists? Is it maybe running my KPIs? Is it doing lead follow-up for sellers that weren't ready 3 months ago? What is a good admin person's first 5 tasks when they get hired on your business?
Okay, so for me, what I like them to be doing is all the transactions part, making sure that we're ending up at the closing table. So they're going to be talking to our sellers every single week, every couple of days until we get to the closing table, just to make sure that, you know how they get, if they're not talked to, if they're not, they just start freaking out, right? So talking to them, keeping them in the loop of what's going on, talking to our attorneys to make sure that that's getting to the closing table. Once if I was back in that position and I get the deal in contract with a buyer now, talking to that buyer, making sure that we've got proof of funds, all those things. And then also doing all the marketing and due diligence needed once we get that property in contract to be able to show, like put some type of marketing piece together, show pictures or any kind of information that we need, getting it out on whether it's Facebook or wherever we're putting that property out there to our buyers list and such, so that I can start talking to buyers.
I like it.
You know, I want to add one thing, you know, playing off of what Brent said. I'm a big believer and you've got to get your feet wet and you've got to do it, because if you want to be a good leader, you have to know how to do each and every one of these pieces so that you can set them up for the best way of winning in their position.
Totally agree. What do you think, Jamil? I mean, when you were coming out, when you were building, I mean, it was just you and your sister grinding, doing the deals. Did you hire somebody before you joined Josiah and Hunter, or did you guys all collaborate together and then start growing? Because you've got the biggest team here, right? I mean,
yeah. So the process for us was very much along the lines of what Terry was describing. Our first key individual that we had to bring into the mix was somebody to get more of the deals that we had in escrow across the finish line. See, what ends up happening is as you gain momentum, as you start doing more volume, especially in my model where I'm working with more wholesalers and I'm working with real estate agents and I'm bringing in through that methodology, what you find happens is a lot of these deals fall apart at the closing table if you're not nurturing the deal across the finish line.
Yeah.
So what happens? Title issues happen that no one knows how to deal with. Sellers disappear. Buyers don't get their loans in time. Buyers disappear. There's so many things, so many moving parts that if you're not nurturing that deal across the line, you could be out there having as many conversations with sellers and locking up contracts, and then your deals may not close. And if you got 3 deals under contract and sold in a month and 2 of them don't close, think of how crappy that would be, right? You got 3 deals under contract and sold to buyers, and only 1 of them ends up closing because of whatever problems through the escrow process. So is it more beneficial for you to hire somebody to get more contracts in the door, or to make sure that the contracts that you already have get completed? And so our first hire was the transaction coordinator, and that literally spiked how many deals we were actually getting through across to checks. And then when that person got overwhelmed, we hired another one. And it wasn't until administrative tasks were at a real nice hum that we started bringing in acquisitions people to start replicating the work I was doing. So that's when we brought people in to get out there and network and make new relationships with wholesalers. That's when they would come out and make new relationships with real estate agents. And we started building that new lead generation into our fold.
I love this topic because it's not something that people really talk about that often. Jamil and I, this is the week before the COVID whole thing blew apart. It was March of 2020. And Jamil and I are in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, of all places. And we do this little meetup. Okay. And during this meetup, somebody goes, "Hey, will you call a couple of my sellers?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's freaking do it. Let's call some sellers." So I call a seller, and we set up an appointment to go down to the seller's house to lock up a contract, like right there. And the guy who asked me to make the call with, Jamil and I are sitting there. Jamil verifies, like, this is a great deal. We need to run down there and sign this contract like right now. The guy who asked us to make the phone call was streaming it on Instagram Live. Okay. So we go down to the house. We walk down to the house, and lo and behold, the wholesaler who already has it under contract is standing on the doorstep saying, "Why the hell are you calling my sellers? I already have this house under contract." And we're like, "How did you know we were talking to your seller?" He goes, "Because I just saw you on Instagram Live." And it turned out to be.
Yo, look who's in the comments.
Oh, yeah, it's Jory. There, I was just going to say the person who it turned out to be was one of my dear friends, one of our friends, Jory Alston. Okay. Yeah. So Jory Alston is like, "Pace, like, I have this guy under contract. What are you doing?" And I go, "Jory, I didn't know. I'm just calling people to help people out." So the seller, now coming to our appointment, shows up right on time. We were there 5-7 minutes early, and Jory and his acquisition guy were sitting there. Jory doesn't even live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, by the way. He was just there literally for an afternoon at this house. It was so weird how this all came together. So Jory, his acquisition guy, Jamil, myself, and this guy who asked us to call the seller, all on the door, on the stoop of the front of the house. The seller pulls up with his girlfriend, and Jory goes, "Tom, Why are you trying to sign contracts behind my back? And the seller, Tom, says, well, I haven't heard from you in 3 days. Okay, this is interesting because what Terry just said is he said, guys, as you get more and more contracts, you don't know this, but these types of sellers have situations going on where they're maybe depending on the money. They have a U-Haul truck coming. They need a deposit for their next apartment. Whatever it is, these sellers are in really dire straits sometimes, and they need constant communication. Constant communication. And so this topic is not talked about enough because I don't think it's a sexy topic, but it is vitally important to your growth, is getting somebody to offload these conversations and keep the contracts you have contracted communicated to every couple of days. Every couple of days. Now, what's funny is Jory actually is he's an incredible business owner. And it was only 3 days that they hadn't spoken, and the seller was like going and trying to sign a contract with somebody else. Guys, this stuff happens. And here's Jory's advice. He says, you have to stay on top of your sellers all the time. His phone was cut off. That's why he didn't hear from me. So that's another good point too. If somebody was staying on top of this guy every other day and just saying, yep, everything's going well, everything's going well, everything's going well, you're probably going to keep a lot more money leaking out that back door. It's probably the difference. Jamil, what would you say? You contract 10, and if you're not communicating and doing good transaction coordinating, you're probably losing 1 or 2 of those contracts at least because sellers deviate.
Yeah, I say 50%.
50%.
Yeah.
Okay, so you would say in that situation, an admin person is as vital as an acquisition person is because they're keeping those 5 from leaking.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's customer service. I mean, it's literally the difference. I mean, you have to understand when people are in distress, they've got a lot of different ideas and thoughts coming at them. And they're like, I don't know if I did the right thing or if I'm doing this. And people are still approaching them and having conversations. If you were there in front of them, talking to them all the time, keeping that communication, at the very least, you're going to see something coming down. You're going to start feeling that maybe somebody's, pouring a little bit of honey into their ear, telling them that they could get them more or to sell to a family member or something like that, right? The communication is absolutely, you got to squeeze all of the juice out of what you have first. I love it. That was the most unbelievable story. That was perfect, Pace. That was absolutely perfect. I mean,
Terry's advice of hiring admin and then your piece there, it's like, dude, nobody talks about this. And Jamil talking about how leaky these contracts can be. I mean, it's truly something people don't talk about. Leading into the next question, I'd love to hear Brent and Terry answer this question. What do you do if the buyer doesn't close on the last day? What do you do? The obvious answer is, well, it kind of depends. Do you guys have any stories about sellers that have refused to close and then you did something to push them over the edge?
Or buyer. He's asking about buyer not closing.
Oh, buyer. My bad. Buyer.
Buyer not closing or seller?
He asked for buyer.
Oh, a buyer?
Yeah, buyer.
Well, you got to put it, you got to be 72 hours beforehand. You got to communicate with your buyers as much as your sellers. I think this is the biggest mistake is we lock up a deal because and renew, and then we sell that deal, and then we just wait for our check. I mean, you're taking a shot at maybe closing that 25% of the time. And the problem is people close it 25% of the time and they think that that's cool. You don't want to reach out to the seller because you don't want things to like deteriorate in front of in your hands. You don't want to reach out to the buyer because you think that they're like some big hard charging cash, mogul, like big rich person. So you want them to like steamroll you. So you're kind of playing the quiet little mouse that kind of is just hoping that things get done. Do not do that. Communicate as much with the seller.
Sitting over there crossing your fingers.
And what David's saying here about 5K EMD, David, I mean, I'll tell you one thing. That's not going to save you either. I've had plenty of deals where you get $5,000 earnest money from a buyer, and then all of a sudden you get to closing day and ghost. And how do you stop that from happening? What do you do? Never let that be the situation. You should know your buyer's going to shit the bed a week before they shit the bed.
Totally. Totally.
It's totally unacceptable if you have not communicated with your buyer to a point where you know they're not going to close. These guys are flaking out.
And you can feel it, right?
Always. 100%
the
of the
instincts
time.
start kicking in. If your instincts are starting to kick in and in your head, you're like, well, they're probably just too busy. They probably have other projects. They'll get to me in time. They'll wire it in. They're probably on vacation or whatever else. They'll talk to me whenever. Something's slipping. If they are excited about that property, they should be responding back with texts and calls.
And
if you're
Terry,
texting them and they ghost you,
Terry, I don't know if you do this or not, but do you incentivize your administrative people based off closings?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, they get paid by the closing. They get an extra bonus kick on the end, for sure. So they're incentivized to get it to closing. When I first looked at that too, my brain went to sellers, so I was going to go there, but it rarely happens on the other end because the communication is just so massive. Talking to them and making sure and. Yeah, it's the other thing is like, look, we make it very clear with these people. Look, we have what they want, right? So like we're dangling the carrot. Mess with me one time and you'll never get my carrots, right? We won't do business ever again. And guess what? I've got a lot of friends in this business that are in this area, and I'll be talking to them too. So don't burn bridges. Like we make that real clear.
That's a good point. I mean, people in our neck of the woods in Arizona, they don't last long not performing, right? You go to real estate meetups and people's names get passed around like crazy, right? The good buyers float to the top. The ones that don't perform, they just very, very quickly get weeded out.
Yep.
Another thing is getting proof of funds. That's always been a big thing, and really just trying to, like, we try to vet them out. What do you plan on doing with the property? Like, are they truly rehabbing it? Are they truly keeping it as a rental property? Or are they trying to double wholesale this property?
And the thing is, there's nothing wrong with double wholesaling. It's just if you know they're going to do it, right? There's been times where I've taken a deal from Brent. I've taken a deal from Jamil. I've turned around and we've done it all to each other, right? Yep. But it's nice when we tell each other, hey, I've got a buyer. I'm going to go shop this too. And at least they know. Right. The worst thing is not having control of the situation and guessing what's going on. Right. And then when the people who are buying your property ghost you for 3 days and they say you're busy and you have no control of what's really going on, that's the frustrating part. So let's say, Jamil, that it's a week before close of escrow. My buyer's being fishy. I think he's potentially co-wholesaling it. So he's not really the buyer. What should I do? Is there something I say? Is there because technically they haven't breached yet. Is there a phrase, a sentence, maybe a threat, which you're not a threatening guy at all. So that's probably not the direction you're going to go. But is there something that I can do that can indicate I know I need to pivot to a different direction?
Yeah, you give them a fake out. You say, hey, if I can find another buyer to take your place in this deal, would you like me to do that?
That's good. I've never heard you say that before.
Yeah. So they start getting squirmy with you, and you start to feel that a week beforehand. You pull that plug right there, you pull that drain right there, and you see if they start going down the drain. Because if they start going down the drain, they're going to do it today or they're going to do it a week from now. And if they want that $5,000, because right now what's going to happen? They know they're not going to sell the deal, or they know they're not going to close on the deal. They're getting closer and closer to their time to perform. And now you maybe have given them an opportunity to get out of the deal. You now have information. You now have the information that you need to know to go plug in another buyer.
Yep.
Then if you have to sell it for less than what you had sold it for in the first place, you still have that earnest deposit that you might be able to keep some of. Or if you plug in another buyer and you want to retain your relationship with the buyer who you know is going to shit the bed, maybe you give them back their EMD. I don't know what you do at that point. I know for us, we've given people their earnest deposits back. We've taken people's earnest deposits when they don't perform. We've closed on deals when buyers didn't perform. So we provide a number of solutions, being A, how well capitalized we are, and B, how important our reputation is in town. We've been very, very cognizant of how we have to approach that situation come closing day.
Another thing is always try to have more than one buyer on the back end, right? So just don't qualify one person, qualify 2 or 3, And if something doesn't work out, they know that they're second or third in line, and make it very open and communicate that with them.
That's a good point. So you could essentially, let's say that you send out a blast, Terry, and you get 3 or 4 people that come and they're sniffing around. Somebody puts earnest money down first, so obviously it's theirs. But you're not leaving the other people hanging. You tell them, "Hey guys, I got a contract on the deal. We're going to be selling it to another buyer. But if something happens or something changes, are you okay with me reaching out and seeing if you're still interested in the property?" And just leave them as a backup buyer. That's a smart way to go. I like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I just tell them we'll close on this ourselves. Like, just tell me, bro. Like, if you are not going to close on this, I will close it myself, because I'll tell you this right now. If you want to get a good night's sleep, close when the seller thinks you're closing. Close when it's on that purchase agreement. Okay? Because if you don't, and you're just dragging this out for this distressed property owner, it is a nightmare. Not only do you feel terrible in your soul, but you're going to just be like, all of a sudden, like, you're going to be on your bike trying to figure everything out, being in a frantic pace. It's going to stop you from going out and hunting for new opportunities, and then everything gets clogged up. So close when you're set to close. And if you're feeling like something's going on there, have a backup buyer or close it yourself. Every deal we're willing to close ourselves. I will not lock up a deal unless we're willing to close it. Never, ever, ever, ever. And I'm telling you, it's just that's how you sleep well at night, knowing that the seller doesn't have to now go back into their house, bring all of their stuff back, cancel all the movers. You know, they've got all their utilities getting turned off. They've got all different things going on. Just do what's on the contract. Close on that time. If your buyer starts getting wiggly, you should know it a few days ahead. And if so, either close it yourself or give it to that backup buyer, or have a really strong open conversation with the seller and just tell them you need some more time. But that never is that's a tough pill for them to swallow.
So Terry, what did your business look like when you decided that you needed to elevate and get yourself out of it? Was it you just finally got sick of it? You finally were like, "Oh my gosh, I can't handle this anymore. I'm the problem." What did that look like?
Pain. It was pain. I saw that question came up, and I felt the pain just thinking about it. Back in 2014, I went to my first mastermind ever. And at that mastermind, I remember that these 2 women went up and they were doing their intros, and they were getting ready to talk, and they didn't even get past their intro with me. And I just my mind went crazy. So she was talking about how she was living in Florida, spending majority of her time in Southern California because she likes Southern California, was getting ready to completely unplug for a month and go on this bicycle backpacking trip in Northern California. And she was talking about all the things that were going to happen in that month that she was going to be gone. Now, I left on Thursday night to get to this mastermind in New Orleans. I came back on Sunday. I'm freaking out the entire time I'm there, thinking my entire business is going to burn to the ground. When I get back on Sunday, I'm going to be left with nothing but ashes, because my business owned me. I didn't own my business. I came back from that. Well, first of all, my mind, how is she doing this? I became obsessed with that. I'm doing it all wrong. I've got to figure this out. And I came back from that mastermind Monday morning. I had a bunch of carpenters, because I was that much of a control freak that I couldn't even outsource subcontracting on rehabs. I had 16 carpenters, met them at my back door of my office, and got rid of every single one of them, fired every single one of them. And I just, at that point, forced myself into creating systems, rebuild in a different way, that the business doesn't need me, and that I can have a system to where other people can follow it. But I was working 180, 100, 120 hours a week. I was never home. I forgot what color my house was, because I left when it was dark and I came home when it was dark. And I had kids that I was just completely neglecting, wife neglecting, and I knew I needed to make a change.
That's interesting, because I gauge my success based on, Jamil and I travel a lot. Brent, Jamil and I are part of groups and masterminds and stuff like that. I gauge my success on whether, if I'm at a mastermind or I'm traveling around, am I making the same amount of money whether I'm involved or not, is really the main thing that is what I measure my success by. But why, Brent, Jamil, Terry, why do we put ourselves in these situations that we have to essentially, it's like an escape, like prison. What was that show, that TV show, Prison Escape or whatever it was?
Yeah.
Prison Break.
Prison Break. It's like we put ourselves in prison just so we can break out of it. Why do you think we do this, Brent? Why do we do this to ourselves?
I think we need to do it, Pace. Listen, when you're building a business, this isn't just, hey, I'm going to get a paycheck every other week. All right. You need to grind and build your business. Yes, your family's going to see you do that. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with your family seeing you work hard? Now, when you get into 80, 100, 120 hours, that kind of gets crazy. I mean, you want to spend time with your family, but listen, make no bones about it. When you were starting a business, you are on all the time. Your brain is on all the time. You are constantly looking for angles and opportunities and just something so that you can get enough money in your bank account so that it's healthy and happy, and a heavy bank account so that you can start bringing on people that have real talent, and you have a real business that you feel good being responsible for their financial well-being. But make no doubt, when you're starting your own business, you gotta put the work in. I mean, it's just at some point you can build up systems, but you have to have the capital to be able to do that. And the way to get capital is you grinding in the beginning. So we're self-employed when we start this thing. We're self-employed. We're going out there. We're doing the extra work. We're knocking on 15,000 doors in the middle of the summer, right? We're out there going and showing houses on Saturdays and Sundays. Now, once you get to that point where you've earned it, once you get to that point where you've actually built a successful business, which, by the way, what's the stats? 85% of businesses don't make it their first 3 years, right? You're the 15% that's doing it. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, that is a pride that I have in myself and what I've done that I'll always have. I mean, it's just, you just got to put the work in, and now it's there, and now I get to live this life. So there's sacrifices. There absolutely is sacrifices when you're starting to run and build a business in the beginning. But I think you do that 2 years, you do that 3 years, you start building up something special, then all of a sudden you can go and be on a TV show. You can go to Mexico and run one of the biggest masterminds, groups for a whole week in Mexico with your business. But you got to put in your dues. I'm telling you, you got to put in your dues.
Jamil, you don't think there's any way around what Brent is saying?
No, I truly don't. I think that that's something that people want to hear, that there's a way around it. I think that that's what a lot of coaching businesses are based off of, selling to people that there's a way around it. But you, myself, Brent, Terry, we all know that if you don't put yourself on the sacrificial stone, that if you're not going to put yourself out there and be the person that bears the cross, you're not going to get there. You're not going to get redeemed, man. It's just not how it works. God is not rewarding pussies.
Put that on a t-shirt. Put that on. That's the new logo.
Put that on a t-shirt. Are you kidding me?
That's funny.
Oh, but hold on. I got to write that on my yellow pad.
Yeah, I got it. God is not rewarding pussies. I love
it.
Okay.
I apologize if anyone has kids watching.
Oh, that's so good. So Terry, Brent alluded to a mastermind. It's like I feel like it's the coolest idea of a mastermind ever. What is your mastermind that you're running?
This one right here.
The Tab Retreat, right?
Tab Retreat. I'm backwards here. The absolute best is what that stands for. It was named over tequila, so don't judge. and think quick on our feet here. This is the 5th time that we've done this event. Last year, we weren't able to do it for obvious reasons. And now we're back. You're one of our amazing speakers that we're going to have in this lineup this year. And yeah, man, it's in less than 2 weeks away, September 11th through the 18th, a full week. But we're only, like I was telling Brett before you guys hopped on, is it's only 4 days. For 4 hours of each of those 4 days is the actual event production. The rest of it is structured networking, connecting with amazing people like yourself, and really just getting to know people. And that's where, talk to people, right, Brent? I mean, It's where you really just like make those real connections. How many times have you been to an event and you're there for 2-3 days, they're 8, 10, 12 hours a day in the classroom, the event. And then all you want to do is you want to get out, you want to meet people, you want to network, you want to make those connections, because that's really where it happens. It happens afterwards while you're sitting at the bar, having dinner, having lunch, meeting someone in the hallways, having that conversation, and really making that connection. So I said 6 years ago when I came up with the idea, I remember I'm sitting there at the pool, my wife's up in the cabana, and I was like, hey, wouldn't it be pretty cool if we can get a bunch of like-minded individuals, a bunch of real estate investors from all over the country down to a resort like this, all inclusive, and just hang out for an entire week. Like, that would be so freaking cool. Like, think of the connections that we can make in the partnerships and just all the cool things and memories that would come out of this. And I came home, I put a message on Facebook, and the comments were just like boom, flooded. Yeah, let's do it. So I was like, okay, maybe it's a good idea. I thought I was a little bit crazy by thinking about it at first, going down to Mexico, doing something like that. And yeah, we've been doing it, and it's been growing every single year. And this year, by far, we have the best speaker lineup in tab history, maybe real estate investing history.
Who do you guys have?
You're gonna make me remember things. All right, I'm terrible with all this stuff. So we have.
Well, while you pull it up, Terry, I'm going to say a couple of things. So Jamil and I, same thing. Brent, we went to a mastermind at the very beginning of the year, the family mastermind, which we're all part of, and it is a lot of sitting in the room, but they have a pretty good blend of like getting out and having lunch and some night activities so you can hang out and vibe. But I found myself saying, when I get home, I'm going to reach out to this one person and we're going to set up a longer conversation. Yep. And then what happens is you disconnect and you say, oh, okay, well, like there's 3 or 4 people from that event that I still haven't connected with because it was the right place, the right time to connect right there, but we just didn't have enough time. Right. And then same thing, Jamil, you and I went down to Key West where I met, we met Terry down there in Key West. And there was one relationship there that I really wanted to take home with me. It was with Robert Allen. And what was amazing is that we were able to go spend some time with him on a boat. And that's where I really connected with him. And it was just that 2 hours outside of the class, 2 hours outside of whatever, without having to go back home and reconnect and do all that kind of stuff. Just those 2 hours with that one person made that whole entire event worth it. So when Terry was talking about his event where he's like, look, we limit the class to 4 hours a day, and then the rest of the day is truly networking. Like, you now have time to do recordings. You have time to do some content together. You have time to do deals together. You have time to actually like talk about each other's businesses and underwrite deals and say, what's your portfolio look like? What are you doing? You can't do that in a classroom setting because everybody turns around and looks at you and goes, dude, can you please be quiet? I'm trying to listen to the speaker. So who do you got, Terry? Who's on the lineup?
Of course, we've got this amazing guy named Pace Morby. Got Javier. I always butcher his last name. Hinojo. He's a commercial guy. Tessa Jelton. You guys know her? She's in your market. Mm-hmm. Tim Bratz. My life coach, Tanya Oliver. We've got Max Maxwell, Ryan Pineda, Carlos Reyes, Tim Story, and myself.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Now, the other thing is that you were telling me about the event is it's not just them speaking. Like, everybody actually has the whole week to network with these speakers, where it's not just like you go to an event, you see a speaker on stage, that speaker then goes into the green room and they disappear out the back. I've been to a whole bunch of events. In fact, I've spoken on stages with Jamil and Brent, where the people putting the event on like usher you out the back and they go, okay, you can go out that way so you don't get swarmed by people. I'm like, that's why I'm here. Like, I want to meet people. I want to network. What are you talking about? So this is kind of the opposite of that, right?
Yeah, totally. It's, I vet out the speakers. Like, really, that's the one thing that I make sure that I take care of. And I want to make sure that people understand, like, if it's not a good fit for that speaker and they can't be there the entire week or the majority of the week and make themselves accessible, I don't care how good they are. They're not the right fit for this event, because I want them this is what makes this event different. I want them to be able to have access. But you know what? A lot of people like yourself, Pace, and myself, like we see the value of that. So we want to be in the middle of that. We want to be talking to these people. So one of the cool things that I did at the last event that we did in 2019 was after each event day, so the 4 days that we have the event day, up to 10 people can sign up to sit and have lunch in a small group setting with each one of the speakers. So no more than 10 people, sit and have lunch and just talk. And it's real, just have real conversations about what's going on in life, what's going on in business, like how do you do this, and just picking your brain and allowing you to serve these people on a smaller setting.
I love that. So Shy Brown says, where will this be? Do you have a link or something that you can put in the side chat for people to sign up or go see what this is about? And then we'll get back into Q&A. We got a whole bunch of people here with Q&A in the side.
Pace, will you scroll up those comments? Somebody was saying something about a mindset deal that you did with Robert Allen. Can you hit us up with some highlights on what that was right there?
Yeah. So I invited Robert Allen into my private mentorship, and he spent hours talking about how to overcome fear. And I've shared little teeny bits and pieces of it. It was like life-changing. It brought me to tears. Like, it was so good. And I had like some breakthroughs. So I brought him in just because I met him at that event. He's been one of my childhood heroes. One of my students who was part of that event and saw the whole live and all that kind of stuff went and bought me an original Robert G. Allen book that was signed by Robert G. Allen back in the 80s. It was like original print that doesn't print anymore, just to say thank you. Like, they went through all that trouble to say thank you. That's how much that event helped them. I didn't charge for it. It's just for my students. And I unfortunately never made it available to anybody other than my students. So I'm sorry for that, but I'll share it with you, Brent.
No, I just highlights, like a couple highlights.
He came up with a really good acronym for fear. Or he said here, there's the word fear is broken down into the 5 letters. So fears, your fear of failure.
Yep.
Your fear of, what's E? I can't remember all of them. One of my students will fill it in. Fear of acceptance, fear of rejection, and then fear of success. Like, people actually have a fear of success.
Oh yeah.
And bro, that was where I had the breakthrough. I have a fear of success. Like, there's times in my life where, you'll be grinding with your nose down really, really hard for a good year or 2 years or 3 years. And then all of a sudden, amazing things just start happening to you and you feel like you don't deserve them. So in a weird, that's what it is. Diamond Hands gave me the E. It's fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, fear of
acceptance, rejection,
fear of rejection, and then fear of success. And mine was fear of success. Like, I'm sure all of us have experienced that. Like, go back to Terry's story. You're so used to doing everything in your business for so long that all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, wait, I don't even have to log into Podio anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to make the calls. I don't have to close the deals, but I'm still getting a check. In fact, my check is larger than it was when I was running by there's got to be something wrong. And then you go into your business, you start sabotaging your business in a subconscious way because you're fearful of success. That is something that I've struggled with, that I have everything else. I'm not afraid of failure. I'm not afraid of people accepting me. I'm not afraid of rejection or any of that stuff. I am afraid of success because I'm so used to I was growing up with 12 kids in my family. I was used to not having a lot of money. And so when you start making a lot of money, you start sabotaging. What would you guys say? You guys ever have fear of success at any point in your life?
Heck yeah.
Oh yeah.
All the time.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. Love it. Fears, failure, embarrassment, acceptance, rejection, and success.
He says it all. Robert Allen said in 27 years, Jamil and I were able to watch him on stage. He said in 27 years of teaching real estate, the number one thing that he learned is killing people's ability to be successful is not technical analysis, not how many books you read, not any of that kind of stuff. He's like, all of that helps. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to one thing. And he said it was mindset. Mindset. It was all down to mindset. So he made a pivot probably about 5-7 years ago to stop teaching about real estate. Now all he does is teach about mindset, and his acronym of fears. He says there's not a single fear you'll ever have that doesn't fit underneath one of those 5 categories.
Love it. But Jamil, don't you have something going on with what is it? Matt Ferry?
Yeah, I do. Matt Ferry, amazing guy. Brent, you're familiar with him.
Oh, yeah.
Probably one of the most prolific mindset coaches on the planet, in my opinion. Somebody I personally pay to help me tune in my mind and heart on a daily basis. But Pace is right. When Robert Allen says that the number one reason why people fail in entrepreneurship is because they have an inappropriate mindset. And here's an example of it, right? You've got people who they'll buy the list, they'll skip trace the list, they'll cold call 8 hours a day, and their results are basically being put in a meat grinder. They'll do that for 5 months and nothing will happen. Then you'll have a person come in day one, get a list, skip trace the list, make 100 phone calls, go out to see a seller, sign a contract, sell the deal, make $70,000, and it happens in 3 weeks.
Yep.
And you wonder what the hell was different there, because they both put the work in. Why did one person? You say, yeah, that person got lucky. Let me tell you what that is. That is a vibrational match, is what that is. That is a vibrational match. Individual needed to sell their house, and they needed to sell their house to the person who was going to serve them, not screw them. And so what ended up happening is the person that ended up being on the other end of the phone call that could serve that person is the individual who showed up and who ended up getting the deal. And that is a vibrational match. And that is why people are failing at their try at entrepreneurship, because they're not realizing how important it is to get this and this right before you're even hiring people, before you're even buying lists, before you're even talking to sellers, before you're even having communication with agents. None of it. If you don't have the right state of mind, all you're going to do is poo-poo everything you do.
Now, can I give you guys something really interesting? Cody Thomas says, does Robert Allen have a book? Yes, of course he has a book. Go check those out. But the next book that Robert Allen is going to be putting his words into, I'm going to manifest this, is going to be Jamil Damji's book. I'm not going to tell you the title, but Jamil's been working on an amazing book that I'm super excited about. And I'm also going to manifest that Jamil is going to be a New York Times bestseller by writing this book. I promise you that. Put my reputation on that. Put my reputation on that and record this right now.
Do we get any idea what it's about, Jamil? What are we doing?
It's called The Energy of Money, my man. The Energy of Money. And it is all about that. How do you get yourself energetically attuned so that you are receiving the vibration, your personal vibration on money and what you're putting out, so that you're getting that back.
And Robert Allen is writing the foreword of that book.
Yep.
Pretty epic stuff. So, Terry, we've got about 20 minutes, so we want to get into some Q&A. Did you pull up a link for everybody to go figure out where your event is and find out more about that?
Yeah, I don't have a way to put anything in the comments, but it's real quick. It's real easy. It's tabretreat.com. Go to tabretreat.com. Just click through there, set up a call with somebody on my team. Let them know that you were on this call, the Wholesale Hotline call. Let my team know that, and they will give you $1,000 off. And you can actually, if you can't go the entire week, we have other packages where you can go as little as 3 days, 3, 4, or 5 days.
Love it. Awesome. Guys, before we jump into the Q&A, I want everybody to do me a favor. Number one, go check out tabretreat.com. Go check that out. tabretreat.com, tabretreat.com. It's on the screen. Second thing I want you guys to do, because I want to manifest this, right? We're all powerful manifestors. I want you guys to take a screenshot of this right now. And I want you to put this screenshot of us on Wholesale Hotline with Terry. And I want you to take the hashtag or write, I don't even care if you hashtag it, but I want you to write, Jamil will be a New York Times bestseller. I want you to write it. Throw it out in the universe. It might be a year. It might be a year and a half from now, but we're going to come back and reference this recording. And I'm going to put this on my Instagram and I'll go, I freaking called it. We manifested Jamil's going to be a New York Times bestseller, and I need your help. Take a screenshot, throw it up on Instagram, tag this gentleman, and type in New York Times bestseller manifest. Do me a favor.
Boom.
That's huge.
Love it.
Okay, cool. So we got a whole bunch of questions. You guys want to go through and do some fire rounds and go through some stuff?
Let's do it.
Okay. Jamil is preaching tonight. I do have one note I took from Jamil. I think it was God is not rewarding pussies. Got it. Okay. So
also serve them, don't screw them.
Serve them, don't screw them. The other one was vibrational. What was the other thing?
Match.
Vibrational match.
Yeah, that was big.
The genie has spoken tonight, guys.
The genie has spoken. I love it. Hey, real quick, anybody out of the 400 people on here, I want to hear if you put a deal under contract this last week, if you sold it this week, if you've got something that you need to sell. I want to have some success in the side here. The point of this show is so that you can take this show and put it into your business and be successful. So we want to recognize anybody that is out there providing value. Make sure that you post to this show. Let us know what you got going on. Also, guys, remember that this is a podcast. Every single week, it's a podcast. So if you're driving around, you want to watch it again, you can certainly watch it on YouTube, but you can listen to a cleaned up version on the podcast. So definitely check that out. Thousands of people a week do. So make sure that you check that out as well.
Okay, question on the screen for me. I'll start it off and we'll throw up some other questions for everybody else. Andrew Kennerly says, the only question I have is creative finance only for distressed homeowners, such as default, pre-foreclosures, and heavy repairs needed? The answer is no. I'll actually pull up an address for you. This is a house that Jamil and I have actually both been to. It's one of my favorite houses. It's a house I think I paid like $1.1 million for it. And the seller was not in distress one bit. The seller sold to me on seller finance. Look how damn cute. Let's pull this bad boy up. Thing's cute as a button.
It's such a nice house.
It's so cute. Like if I was going to live anywhere besides Arizona, I would probably go move into this house. I love this house so much. So you guys can see right here on the screen, 75 Maddox Drive, Northeast Atlanta. I bought it for $1 million. It's currently worth $1.1 million. At the time I paid full retail for it. The seller just wanted a specific number that nobody else was willing to give them. No credit. No credentials, meaning I didn't have to have a job or a W-2. I didn't have to go to a bank, and I bought this house. This house brings in $23,000 a month on Airbnb, and it is netting me about $12,000 a month. That is a creative finance deal. I make $150,000 a year in my pocket on that one deal. We just closed on a 35-unit mobile home park in Yuma, Arizona. Same thing. Seller not distressed. The mobile home park that I took over, seller financed it to me, is making $7,500 a month net. It brings in about $15,000 after I pay my seller, after I pay my expenses and management and stuff like that. I net $7,500 a month. So the question is, why would a seller sell you something on seller finance when it's cash flowing so heavily? Well, guys, remember, everybody's in different phases of their life. Sometimes people are in acquisition phase or acquisition mode where they're trying to gobble up as many properties as possible. And then they get to an older stage and they're doing what Terry's doing right now, where they're liquidating and they're changing and pivoting to a different method, right? A lot of single family investors sell their portfolios when the market's really high and they sell on seller finance. It is so incredibly common to buy deals from non-distressed homeowners on seller finance that it's ridiculous. Now, subject to, typically, I'd say 90% of the time, the seller in a subject to situation is distressed to some degree. Okay, that's the differentiator. Subject to is typically dealing with pain. Seller finance is dealing with gain. Sellers in a seller finance situation care more about gain or solving a problem. Their problem is they want too much money. So if I give them the gain and they don't have pain, I can still get the deal done. In subject to, typically, they're not trying to gain anything. They're trying to exit a painful situation. Oh my gosh, I want to show you a deal. It's the first sub 2 deal I've done. I just closed on Friday. Do you guys mind if I show a HUD real quick?
Do it.
It's my first sub 2 deal that has 3 sub 2 loans on it.
While you're pulling that up, I'm going to ring this bell for everybody that posted that they got a deal. I see you guys. I see you, Jared. Here we go.
All right, let me pull this up. So this is, stop that. Let's share another one. And I will shut up after this. I know I hate talking too much, but let's show this HUD. This is a deal I just closed Friday. Again, guys, if people aren't showing you HUDs, then they suck. HUD up or shut up is what I say. So I just closed this. You guys can see the address over here. There's my LLC, Moving Forward Ventures. There's my address, which is not obviously my address. It's my registered agent. This is the address itself. And then we just closed on it a couple of days ago. Come down here. Interesting. Subject to loan, Penny Mac. Subject to loan, HUD. Subject to loan, John A. Marshall. A private individual, private loan that was given on this house. 3 sub 2 loans, all on one freaking house. Can you guys see that on the screen? Oh yeah, you can. There it is. So there's all sorts of amazing things that you can do in creative finance. It's both sellers that are distressed and sellers that are not distressed. That seller was not distressed. They actually sold their equity to me. It's called a hybrid, part sub 2, part seller finance, a little in the weeds there. That seller had no pain whatsoever. He gave me his equity at 0% interest. So no, creative finance is not limited whatsoever to only painful situations like foreclosure, divorce, bankruptcy, tax liens, etc. It helps, but it's not limited to it. Here we go. Here's a good question. Lawrence Swartz asks Brent Daniels,
Yep.
I need a $20,000 price reduction with the seller. Still within my 10-day inspection period. How do I have that conversation?
First of all, I don't have these conversations.
That might be the answer that I wanted you to give, brother.
No, I mean, honestly, and listen, as you're starting out, the hardest part is deal or no deal. That's why people get coaches and mentors and have people locally or whatever else so that they can review these things to make sure that this doesn't happen. What I would say is I made a mistake. My numbers were off. I need to get it $20,000 lower, or I need to cancel the contract. I wanted to talk to you as soon as possible because I respect your time. I want you to be able to sell this to somebody else. You think you could get more, but I know that I could get it done at $20,000. The other thing, Lawrence, I would say is you better have that deal sold already. If you get that $20,000 price reduction and you don't have it sold and you have to try to go back to them or cancel afterwards, you got to make sure that $20K is enough to get that deal sold. So make sure, one, that you have a cash buyer that 100% will do it if you're not willing to do it or able to do it. And number 2 is just be honest with them. Hit them up. Listen, I ran the numbers wrong. This is what I can do. I understand if you want to cancel and find another buyer, but if not, we can do it at this price.
Hey, Brent, I have a question about that. If you're doing virtual wholesaling, you're not going to the property. The first time you actually see the property is photos or however you do your due diligence.
Yeah.
And one thing I've learned from Pace is actually this phrase, buyers are liars, sellers are worse.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh yeah, great property. I mean, we had these 3 properties a few months back, 3 properties from this one particular seller. He hadn't seen the property in over a year, properties in over a year. When he last saw them, they were in great condition. The way he described it to us was A-okay. We get over to the property, get the photos. They come back to us, and there's walls gutted out. I mean, it was atrocious.
Yeah.
Between the 3 properties alone, we had to get $110,000 or $120,000 price reduction to make the deal work. And as soon as he saw the pictures, he was like, whatever. Like, I'm not putting all this money into it. So would that be a different situation in your mind? Or you still?
I think if you give them evidence, I think there's a couple techniques. You could get it full blown inspected and show them that bloodbath of an inspection and say, hey, listen, I can't do it at this price. I can do it at this $20,000, right? I could do it $20,000 less. But if you don't want to do that, here is the inspection. This is what you're going to run up with. And I think that could help you. Now that costs anywhere from $300 to $500 around the country. It just depends. And I think sending pictures to them. But I'm a little bit different, Terry. I don't do virtual wholesaling. I see every property. I'm not putting an offer on a property unless I know what's going on with it. So I think that it's smart that people, if you can lock up a deal, lock it up. But you're going to have a lot more price reductions and a lot more cancellations than somebody like I would, because we've seen the property. We know what's going on. And we don't usually deal with any major issues that we can't see with the naked eye here in Phoenix. So yeah, I think if you're going to lock up things sight unseen, then you're going to have to be really good at negotiating that.
Makes sense. We don't go to any properties. You go to all of them. So that's a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Ooh, interesting. Michael Williams. I don't know if anybody has a specific answer for this. Will a double close protect a seller with a ship program if I use transactional same day closing? So ship program, to my understanding, they call them different. They're different things in different states, but a ship program is basically when the state comes in and helps the seller keep their home. And then the state says you can't sell your house for a very specific amount of time, or we get half of your equity or something along those lines. So Michael Williams, in your state, in our state, it's called something different, but in your state, it's called the ship program. Will a double close protect a seller with a ship program if I use transactional same day closing? At the end of the day, the only thing you really got to understand is, has the ship program lapsed its 5-year time frame? Usually it's a 5-year time frame where the city comes in and goes, hey, we'll help you keep your house because you fell behind your payments, but you have to keep the property for 5 years. Otherwise, if you sell it in any time less than 5 years, then we get part of your equity for not keeping the house. And so I don't know how transactional funding would actually help in that situation, because either way, you're selling it within that 5-year time frame. Jamil, seems like you might have some experience in this as well.
The only way that you can protect a seller is doing a seller finance.
Right. What we do is in those situations, we do an agreement for sale so that the deed does not actually transfer. The city or the state does not see that the deed is transferred. However, you have the contract on the home. That agreement for sale records against the property. So you have full rights of ownership. Nobody can do anything to the house without approving of you. However, you have not conveyed title and deed and triggered that ship to come in and ask for their dues. So Jamil is correct. Seller finance, agreement for sale in Arizona, contract for deed in other states, land contract in other states, 100 different ways you can skin the cat in that situation, but transferring the deed is the problem. So if you can buy it on seller finance without transferring the deed, then that's the way to do it.
Could they put deed restrictions on it so that they couldn't even transfer it?
They could.
Right?
100% they could.
Once it goes through that closing attorney, and he's in New York, man, you know they're going to slap him with a lot of paperwork on that ship program.
Yeah, it's interesting thing about New York too, because New York requires 2 different attorneys to close the transaction. So you have to have an attorney representing the buyer and a different attorney representing the seller. It is very interesting in New York and New Jersey. So the smart way to do that is you do a tabletop closing with an agreement for sale, or in New York, it would be a contract for deed. So what you do is you can do a contract for deed and do a tabletop closing, which means you don't have to go through an attorney to close that transaction, because it's just a handshake deal until the ship program lapses. Then you go to a title or closing attorney and finalize the transaction. That was probably over 90% of people's heads, but come to Sunday service and we'll talk about it for an hour and a half.
that was actually a really good answer.
Thanks, bro. Claudio Diaz, who's in Boston, virtually wholesaling into Houston, says, let's see if Terry can answer this one. Can an assignment agreement not be made non-assignable past the entity named? Let's reiterate that question.
I'm calling that.
Let's reiterate that question.
Yep.
I think he's doing a double negative, but he didn't mean it that way. Can I stop somebody from assigning my contract past their LLC? So let's say, Terry, I assign a contract to you. And can I write in my contract that Terry is not allowed to assign that contract past Terry's LLC?
Yeah, of course. I mean, just with the simple words, non-assignable.
Listen, Claudio, here's the fact. You can put that in your contract. People are still going to sign that. They're going to blow right past it. And they're going to
Are they going to do that through a double close though? Or do you think they can get around that?
I think they'll just assign it. Happens all the time. They'll just assign it to somebody else. The title company is the one that can shut it down if they want to. But typically they're like, hey, listen, these guys are coming in with a buy. Do you mind? No? Okay, good. Or if you don't even know until you get to the closing and it's somebody else on there, they just push it through. What are you going to do? You're going to cancel it and then take the property down yourself and then get into some legal. People are banking that they're just going to push this thing through. They're not going to read your assignment. They're going to be like, whatever.
Very true. It has a lot to do with.
What do you think, Jamil?
Who cares? Like I like really though. I mean, it's such a like why. How many deals am I in that I see that there's 2 assignments, 3 assignments on it? I don't, and I buy those. I'm fixing and flipping that deal, right? Am I sitting there with all in a hissy fit about it, caring because a couple of people made money on a deal I bought? No. And if I was, I wouldn't be in the business. And so what I have to say is that when you can learn how to work with individuals in the business that are working with buyers, that are bringing liquidity to your deals, why are you adding friction to that process?
I think the question came from because Claudio's a friend of the show and a friend of Jamil. So I know Jamil's just answering the question. It's unrelated to Claudio. Yeah. Claudio, I think, was asking the question for somebody else because earlier in the conversation, we were talking about what happens if a double wholesale is going on and you have no control over that final party and what they're doing. And there was somebody else asking that question. And so Claudio kept the question on the top so we would answer it. I think the real answer is at the end of the day, I really don't care as long as it gets sold. But if I want to control that, could you force your title company be the only title company you go through and tell your title company, if they're trying to wholesale this, stop them and communicate with me? Can that be done?
100%.
Not saying that that's the way to go, but if you wanted to be in full control and limit, like Jamil said, bringing liquidity to your business, I guess you could go that direction. Jamil, do you guys limit anybody that you're wholesaling with or any which way?
No. Look, man, the thing is that everybody's got a different type of buyer, a different kind of reach, different person who's going to be able to pay more. There's end users out there that people work with that are just trying to get into a house they can put sweat equity into. And that person might be making $5,000 moving that deal to that person. What does it matter? Right? The fact is vet the people that are in line, make sure that the money is there, stay in communication with all the parties involved. And if you are in a deal, have it backstop with your own funds, or figure out how to bring somebody to the table that can help you do it. And
Jamil, do you have any deals that I can buy from you today?
I don't know.
Do you guys have anything in East Valley that I can fix and flip?
Very likely, bro. very, very. I didn't see what went out today. There's, maybe 10 houses. I don't know.
Okay. I'm going to reach out to your team because you're very much like Terry. You're not operating the day to day, which is amazing.
It feels good.
All right, Brent, this question's for you, dog.
I got it. The answer is you need to have quality conversations with distressed property owners.
So good.
Quality conversations with distressed property owners. You create a business that does that. It starts with you first, and then it grows to a whole team. You have people constantly talking to new distressed property owners. You win. I got you, homie.
Okay, Brent, here's a good one for you.
Yep. So I was getting a property under contract. Seller has grandchild over for the weekend. Come Monday, seller hasn't responded at all today, but was talked over this weekend. What should I do? Keep calling them. And if they don't answer, go to the door.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in contract with them, listen, people have lives. So if they're not responding, their phone could be turned off, right? We talked about that earlier. But if it is, go to the door. Just go and say hello. I don't think that there's any problem there. Just to keep reaching out. People have their lives. It's not, we're focused. We're like, oh my God, I got this deal. Oh, I love it so much. Oh, this is amazing. And then the property owner's like, yeah, I sold it and I'm moving. It's just a different vibe. So just go and try to reach them, keep calling them, keep texting them, and go to the door if they don't respond.
Love
All
it.
right.
We've hit well over 400 live viewers today, which is amazing between all of our streams. So guys, thank you for tuning in to us today. We have hit the end of the show. I'm going to push one more time for Terry. Terry's got tabretreat.com coming up in Mexico, right? That goes for an entire week. Guys, if you call Terry's team and you tell them you heard us or heard this on Wholesale Hotline, you'll get a discount. You get to hang out. I think I'm going just so I can sit at a table with Max Maxwell and be one of the 10 people who gets to sit down with him. I think that's the main reason I'm going. So I'm excited about it. I'm so grateful that you came on the show today, Terry. Is there anything you'd like to tell the audience? Remember, most of the people in here are new, right? Their first year in the business. What would you like to tell them? What would you tell the Terry that was in his first year of this wholesaling business?
Good question. First of all, thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. Enjoyed it. It's only 6:30 there. It's 9:30 here. So after this, I'm going to close it down and go to bed because I go to bed early. But what would I tell myself in the beginning years is that start thinking today with the end in mind. And what I mean by that is everything that you do, document it. When you see something right, document it. When you figure out a new way of doing it, redocument it. Take as much video as you can, and also not just documenting like what you do, but your KPIs, your key performance indicators. Like track all of your metrics you could possibly track from the get-go, from like day one, because when you have to go backwards and start getting all that data, and if you don't do it from the beginning, what's going to happen is you're going to be so damn busy. You're going to have 5, 10, 15 deals on the board, and you're going to be trying to do this while you're trying to hire, create systems, and it's just going to be a train wreck. So from day one, from the very beginning, start documenting everything that you do.
And Pace, just to touch real quick, VA Start Virtual, because we talked a lot about VA. We talked a lot about getting the operations and cold calling and all that. I use it. You obviously created it. Startvirtual.com. Is that where they could go?
Startvirtual.com is where you can get bookkeeping VAs, social media VAs, cold calling VAs, texting VAs. Jamil has a personal assistant from Start Virtual. Like you can get personal assistants from Start Virtual. And if you guys mention Wholesale Hotline, you get a discount. So mention Wholesale Hotline when you sign up for a virtual assistant at startvirtual.com. Brent, my wife is like, she was on here earlier, Laura on the internet, and she was like, I'm tuning in for Brent Daniels live on Wednesday, which is your birthday. Are you still going to do your weekly live?
You know it. 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You do not want to miss this Wednesday. It's going to be absolutely bananas. I'm very excited about it. So make sure that you come on Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Jamil, do you think we're going to be able to manifest you on New York Times bestsellers list?
It is already done, bro.
Yeah, it's inevitable. Come on. What are you talking about? It's done.
Can we change the name of your book, though? I know you want to name the book Power of or Energy of Money, but I think we should name it God is Not Rewarding Pussies.
Yes.
Bro,
That's
I wrote that down. It was so good, and it is so profound. I freaking love you, dude. You're the freaking best.
It's the best. He's the best. I love it.
Oh, there it is. There it is. My wife is on the show still. She says, hell yeah, manifest king. So it is going to happen. New York Times bestseller. It is going to happen, guys. Please do us a favor. Take a screenshot. Type that in. Type in New York Times bestseller equals Jamil on Instagram stories. And guys, we will freaking see you next Monday. We're going to be doing a lot of Q&A next week. No guest, all Q&A. So bring your questions, bring your problems. If you guys have houses to comp, we'll comp a few houses for you. Jamil, how can people get a hold of you? And then let's peace out.
Reach out to me on my Instagram or go follow subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch that video I did with Matthew Ferry. It's incredible. If you're trying to figure out how to get your mind right, and that's something that speaks to you, I did a stream with Matthew Ferry on the weekend. Just go check it out. It's life-changing stuff.
Love it. Guys, thank you so much. We'll see you next week on Wholesale Hotline.
Love you guys.
Take care.
Or just say squat up.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
What are you doing?
I didn't say that thing.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay.